Here we are in my bed once again for VEDN Day 29, although I'm shooting this on VEDN Day 28. Um, so we are back to the little political quiz. This is supposed to be the 12 axes quiz, but it says 9 axes right here. I don't know why. It says 12 axes in the URL, but it says 9 axes right here and on the tab. So that's a weird little error. But anyway, let's just finish this up and then see where we land on these axes, okay? So, taxation for the rich should be higher than it is now. I don't really like questions like these that are very time sensitive and very place sensitive because, this quiz is going to be on the internet for a few more years, right? So, what if tax policy changes? But should it be higher than it is now? I just think, there's all those loopholes that make it so that they don't have to pay taxes. So it's not necessarily that the taxation needs to be exacted at a greater amount. It's just that we should close all these loopholes for them, So I guess I would partially agree. High levels of economic regulation is good for my nation. I like the idea of it. I like the kind of real hands-on approach to the economy, the do something approach, as Thomas Sowell calls it. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say I agree, but that's just my opinion. I haven't really looked into it very much. Restrictions on trade are bad for the economy. Man, I feel like a lot of these questions are getting repetitive because I feel like we've had a lot of questions like this already. Maybe they're just trying to ask the same questions in different ways from different angles to make sure they're getting a well-rounded picture so that the verbiage of the questions doesn't mislead people. But man, is it getting frustrating. Restrictions on trade are bad for the economy. I guess I don't know. Whistleblowers are good for society. Because the other thing about those questions when they repeat them is I have to think about them all over again because I've forgotten my previous thought process. Whistleblowers are good for society. They gotta be, right? Because if the government is trying to hide something from everyone else, and it's like just some heinous thing that they shouldn't be doing, then yeah, people should know about it. So I'll strongly agree to that. Man, I hope I'm not getting sick. I hope I'm not getting sick, but I have like a weird feeling in my head. I haven't really wanted to take pain pills lately because I'm on this real tough liver, tough on my liver antifungal medication. But like my head just, it doesn't really hurt that much. It just feels weird and my ears feel weird and my neck, I don't know if it's a lymph node thing or an adrenal gland thing or a thyroid gland thing. I've been leaning on thyroid because I've had some weird things pop up in blood tests about thyroxine. But if man, it's just been like this slight recurrent ache in my neck for like a month and a half or more, like months, multiple. So I have that going on right now too. I don't know, I just feel weird. So sorry about that. Peace is preferable to war whenever possible. Strongly agree. No authority should be left unquestioned. Strongly agree. Elections are an effective way of showing government approval. No, not really. They're not. No, they aren't at all, because an election is you getting to choose between a few choices. That's not the same as saying whether you approve. So, yeah, I disagree. Religion and government should be eliminated. Strongly agree. The concept of a free market should be extended towards global trade as well. Seems like not a great idea, but I don't really know. I'm going to partially disagree. Society could not function without leaders and followers. See, we had this exact same question on the political compass test. It was like, yeah, in any civilized society or whatever, there needs to be people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded, I think is what the wording was. I say the word verbiage a lot. I should switch it up. Wording. I think that's what the wording was. But could not function without leaders and followers. The anarchists are probably going to get mad at me, but I strongly agree. Strongly agree. Local governments address issues that the national government would never touch without them. Yeah, I mean, the national government can only do so much. It's helpful to have people on the ground doing a lot of your work for you. So, yeah, strongly agree. Taxation for the rich should be very high. Should be very high. That sounds like Trump wrote it. Taxation for the rich should be very high. God, these questions burning a hole in my brain. Because I have to think about every one of them, and then I have to start a whole new thought process. I mean, I think I like the idea of high taxation for the rich, but I wonder if that would do more harm than good, and if really the only answer is to address the problem at its source, which is the fact that there is such a vast difference in living conditions for people at the top and the bottom of society, and that so much of the wealth is being hoarded at the top. I don't know if taxation is the right solution for that, but I would agree, partially at least. The more people asked, the better chance there is of reaching the best decision. Strongly agree. Only those who serve in the military should be allowed to have influence on who is in power. I feel like we've had this question before. The other question was only those who serve in the military should be able to be in positions of power. This is like, you can only vote if you're in the military. Um, I would strongly disagree with that. Immigrants should be expected to learn the language of the country. I mean, I think they would want to learn the language of the country. I don't think anybody wants to be like some dude who can't speak English if they're living in an English speaking country. So, yeah, I mean, but like, what does this mean? Should be expected? Like, obviously, they should be expected because, like, that's what you do if you're smart, or if you care at all about having a good quality of life in a country. You should learn the language. So that's like a very reasonable expectation as just something to expect. But as far as expected meaning like forced, I don't get the point of that. I feel like there's enough motivation for people to do it without being forced. So I might just say like, maybe I should just go neutral. Diplomatic options should always be tried before war is even considered. Strongly agree. Traditional medicines are often more effective than modern medicines. No, I don't think so. Don't think so. Taxation should be voluntary or abolished. Strongly disagree. The very existence of the state is a threat to our liberty. I agree with that, so I'm going to say agree, but it doesn't mean I think it's a bad thing. An ideal nation must mostly stay neutral during foreign affairs. Must mostly stay neutral during foreign affairs. I mean, that seems like a good idea, right? Like don't just insert yourself into every conflict that doesn't need your involvement, right? That sounds pretty rational. Maybe there are some times when you need to bite the bullet and intervene, but yeah, I would agree with that. Press strongly agree on that one. No cultures are superior to others. I don't know if I agree with this. No. No, I don't agree with this. There's definitely some cultures that I would not want to live in. And I definitely prefer this culture to those cultures. So, yeah, I would disagree. Absolute equality is good. I mean, is it good? Or, is it possible even? Like, is it good in an ideal sense of like this would be ideal in a perfect world? Or is it good as in we should do everything we can to make this happen? Because I don't know if I agree with the second one. I don't really think equality of outcome is all that important. But the idea of absolute equality in abstract, is that important? Or is that just a good idea? Yeah, I would agree with that. Maybe I should have said partially agree. But I would, I just generally agree with that. And there are a lot of areas where I do think that absolute equality is important. So, yeah, agree. Most economic problems we see today are not caused by capitalism, but by government. By government. most. See, the problem here is that capitalism and government kind of go together. Like, they're really part of the same organ. Because the government backs the capitalists, and the capitalists back the government. So, I guess I would partially disagree with this. The government should monitor all citizens to combat terrorism. Seems like a big fucking waste of money. I'm not really concerned about the privacy angle. I just think like there are better ways to spend that cash than a really high-tech surveillance system. So I disagree. I think only countries that are really autocratic and have a reason to be paranoid should worry about that. The government should control the market as minimally as possible. I don't know. Because I do kind of like that hands-on approach. But I also realize that you're playing with fire there. So I don't know, as minimally as possible, that's taking it a bit too far, because it's like as minimally as possible could be just like no control. So as minimally as practical, maybe. I don't know. I think we should be a bit conservative with our approach, but I do think that the the hands-on approach, I do like that more. So I would disagree. The government should not regulate the economy at all. This is kind of the same question. And I would disagree. I would strongly disagree with this one. Global economic cooperation will generally lead to positive outcomes. Yeah, I mean, cooperation, that doesn't necessarily just mean full-on free trade, but having good deals that, like if we need a resource from some country and they have it, but they need something from our country that they don't have, like being able to cooperate on those missions makes sense. So, yeah, I agree. It is important to maintain our national sovereignty. Yeah. Yeah, I do think that's important because what's the alternative? It's basically like a worldwide plutocratic domination by like oligarchs all over the globe. That, I mean, that's even harder to really influence. At least with national sovereignty, we can have a greater measure of control. See, I agree with that. The general populace makes poor decisions. Strongly agree. UBI is a better means of providing welfare when compared to the current welfare system. I like the idea of doing like a food stamps sort of UBI where you get tokens that can only be cashed in for certain things. It doesn't have to just be food. It could be a lot of things. But I feel like wouldn't that, and I'm thinking even beyond just the food stamps where it counts for money. We could even look at divorcing them from the price of goods somehow, and thus mitigating whatever inflationary issues people might have with UBI. I don't know if those are valid concerns or not. But I've thought about stuff like that, like ways a UBI system could be tweaked to actually kind of um, be a bit of a radical departure in the way we do economics. But is it better than just welfare? I don't know. Unsure. A national government must be strong to adequately protect all of its citizens. Um, I mean, what is a weak national government? Is that like a national government that's controlled by cartels? Because if so, then yeah. I don't really know what this means, but I generally agree with the idea that, like, in order for a government to be effective at its job at protecting the citizens, it needs to have the strength to do that. Our culture would be better with other cultures mixed in more. Um, my culture probably would. I think that's something for different cultures to decide for themselves. I think America is already. I mean, it was always kind of just this hodgepodge culture, with a strong English influence, but it's had a lot of things added to it over the years, and it doesn't really resemble the same culture that it was back when it was founded. So I'm thinking, what if the cultures that are prevalent in the metropolitan areas were more present in rural areas? Would that be a good thing or a bad thing? I really don't know. I don't know whether the exposure to those cultures would weaken the resentment of them among the white redneck population, or if it would only embolden their reaction against it. It's difficult for me to say. So I'm going to say unsure. Most organized religions contradict themselves. Well, yeah. Of course they do. We should put effort into getting a person on Mars in the near future. I mean, it seems like a weird thing to even want to do. I like, on some abstract level, it's kind of a cool idea, but I don't know. Like, I'm open to hearing about different cool things that we could do in space, but at a certain point, if there's no economic incentive behind it, then I don't really feel that passionate about it, because it is an expense and doesn't seem like a very useful one. So I would partially disagree, I guess. The government actively works with large corporations to destroy small businesses. Does it? I don't know. I support single payer universal health care. Partially agree, yeah. There must be a separation between church and state. Strongly agree. Local government should have more power than they currently do. Um, I don't know. Like, by local government, are we talking about state governments or are we talking about city governments? Yeah, I don't know. The government should not fund any religious organizations in any way. Um, I'm trying to think if there's a good reason to fund a religious organization. I don't think so. I don't think so. So I would agree. Affirmative action is mostly beneficial. Um, it doesn't seem that way because like it seemed like when they were rolling that out back in the 80s, people were getting real upset about it because they their opportunities for upward mobility were getting stunted by the fact that they're white. And so it just I don't know, it seems like you're attempting to solve a problem which I can respect, but I don't know if I agree with this solution. So I partially disagree. Any variant of anarchism will never work. Agree. Countries fall apart with constant war. Of course they do. Economies without any capitalism will collapse. Um, Depends on what you mean by capitalism, I guess. I guess I'll partially agree to that. Alliances are important for protecting a nation. Um, I guess, yeah. I mean, if you're in a situation where you have a country that's bigger and stronger than you, that can threaten you and wants to, it's good to have allies. So, yeah, I would strongly agree. Theocracy is a good system of government. No, it's not. Economic classes are inevitable. Um, I guess. I mean, they certainly are under capitalism. So, agree. Genetic modification should be used rarely, if ever. I don't see why. I mean, gene therapy seems like a pretty promising future field of medicine. It is important that we maintain the traditions of our past. Um, yeah, yeah, I like tradition. People born to wealthy families have unfair success even when they aren't skilled and don't work hard. Um, this is worded a little bit weird. Like, why is the word even in here? Shouldn't it just be people born to wealthy families have unfair success when they aren't skilled and don't work hard? Is it unfair that they have that success, or is it just unfair that other people don't? I'll partially agree with that. Creationism is a myth. Yes, economic regulation causes more harm than good. Um, I guess I would disagree. The government should have access to the emails of suspected terrorists. Um, I don't know, man. a big part of me is thinking this seems like a bad idea. This just seems like a bad idea, opening this can of worms. But at the same time, I mean, if it helps prevent a terrorist attack, maybe it's not such a bad idea after all. I'll go unsure. Religion is beneficial for society. I would disagree. Although I think that it has some benefits psychologically. Democracy is the worst form of government, except for all the others we've tried. Yeah, it kind of is. Kind of got to agree with that. Ugh. Foreign products are as good as local products. Not always. Partially disagree. Planned economies never perform as well as free market economies. Perform it well in what metric? Like GDP? Because I don't think that's the most important thing to consider. I mean, I think about all the disasters of planned economy, but I also think about the disaster of a free market economy. So I guess I would rather have a free market economy than a planned economy, a fully planned economy. But I really don't like free market either. So I would agree. I guess I would agree. A government must maintain a strong military to defend itself. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. The government should prioritize my country over all others. Yeah, I mean, that's a good idea. Prioritize what you can actually do instead of focusing on other sovereignties with their own problems. States cannot function without a strong national government. I guess, what do you mean by states? Yeah, I'm running into problems with the wording of a lot of these. It's not as bad as the political compass test, but it is kind of getting on my nerves now. I guess we should pay reparations. Reparations is spelled wrong. We should pay reparations for the descendants of slaves. But what is that going to look like? Is my question. Like, are we just going to sign checks? Because that seems like a terrible idea. I think reparation, it shouldn't be thought of as reparations. It should be thought of more as, like, I don't know, investing in the future of the black community. Not so much to repair damage, because they kind of, it's not like relations are damaged between white people and black people. They started out damaged. So we're trying to build something good out of something that was fundamentally wrong from the beginning. But should it be racially based, or should it just be economic? Just like, I don't know what, because race plays a big role, and racial tensions play a big role in the social problems that we have. But I worry that this is not the best way to solve those problems, because it might just, I don't know, it might just result in more resentment from the white people. It might not even work. Like, how do you solve the problem of, you know, a lack of racial integration that's caused by historical socioeconomic problems that were the ultimate results of slavery? How do you solve that with just like some sort of fiscal program? It seems like it's almost too much. But I do agree. I'll partially agree because I do think that steps should be taken to solve these problems. But I don't really know what's meant by reparations. So I can't fully agree. The national government can't understand what the people need. Um, I mean, it's not that fucking complicated. We need safety, security. We need food and water. We need a place to live. We need a job. We need, entertainments and something to occupy the part of our minds that wants to believe in things. Those are really the only things we need. As far as specifics, I mean, if you know the basics of what people need, the specifics can be worked out from there. So it's not that the national government can't understand what people need. I just think that it's probably not a big enough institution to account for all of the little problems in life, and for that you need smaller institutions to help out. So I'd partially disagree. Same-sex marriage should be legalized. I'll agree with that, although I don't really care. Genetic modification is a force for good, even on humans. I guess it can be. Agree. The government should encourage local production and consumption. Agree. Seems like a good idea. Free market, freer the market, the freer the people. This is the same question we got on Political Compass. Disappointed because it's one of the worst questions on the Political Compass test. I guess I would partially agree. I don't know. The United Nations should be abolished. The UN should be abolished? No. Seems like a bad idea. Strongly disagree. Economic globalization is inevitable. Yeah, but like, in what way? Are you talking about just like free trade, or are you talking about just trade being globalized? I guess I would agree. Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a temporary safety deserve neither. It's not really about what they deserve. It's just, I don't think their priorities are in place correctly. So, I partially disagree, I guess. The national government needs more power. More power than it already has. I kind of wish that the states had more power. Honestly, I kind of wish that the states did more, you know? So I don't really agree with that. State and local laws should have precedence over national laws. Didn't we already get this exact same question? Am I going crazy? I feel like we got this exact same question already. God, why are there 288 questions? I don't agree, right? The world must cooperate together in terms they wrote it like it's Italian, together, in terms of economics. Strongly agree. Developing alternative technology is a better means of helping the environment than environmental regulations. Disagree? We should be more accepting to other cultures. Yeah, strongly agree. Environmental regulations are essential. Yeah, strongly agree. Most, if not all, economic crises are caused by government intervention. I don't know. I mean, but like, why? Why would they all be caused by government intervention? Surely there are reasons why people can, like, just lose faith in the stock market and cause, like, a big collapse that don't involve the government meddling in everything. It doesn't seem right to me. An unregulated economy will never succeed. I mean, it won't succeed at doing what I want it to do, so yeah. My nation should stay out of international affairs. Yeah, I mean, generally, I like if international affairs means like getting involved in international conflicts, I think we should try to settle international conflicts instead of getting wrapped up in them. So I guess I'd agree. The government has no business looking into most people's personal lives. I would agree because, like, why would they need to do that? It seems pointless. War is needed to make an economy thrive. I mean, occasionally it is. Unfortunately. But I don't think it's necessary, so I'll partially disagree. Currently, taxation is too complex and should be simplified. I kind of like having a bit of complexity in the tax system because it, you know, it gives us more options for how to get revenue and also for how to deduct from your income tax. So, yeah, I don't agree with that. I believe in a higher power. Disagree. People must be allowed to follow a religion. Strongly agree. An absolute monarchy is more preferable than a liberal democracy. In some ways, it could yield more efficient results, but it's also, I mean, those tend to be very conservative institutions that are all about protecting their own power and all about enjoying the kind of decadence of that power more than like actually taking the proper steps to help people. So I don't really agree that an absolute monarchy is a good thing. All humans share a common identity. What does that mean? I don't even know what that means. Society was better many years ago than it is now. No. I think we're actually better now than we ever have been. So I would disagree. When people have already suffered for technology to be developed, we should use that technology. Well, why not? I support the LGBTQ movement. Agree. Homosexuality should be criminalized. Strongly disagree. Because, I mean, that means I'll have to go to jail for sucking a dick, and I just don't think that's the world I want to live in. National cultures are important to protect. I guess I would. This word protect, I don't really like, because it implies that they're under threat. I would rather say preserve, so I'd partially agree. Maintaining family values is essential. Family values, that can mean a lot of things. I mean, generally it means abstinence from sex and drugs. But it can also just mean appreciation for family and being united as a family. So I don't really know what this is trying to say, so I'm going to say unsure. The United Nations needs more power. Yeah, I'm always skeptical of giving power to international bodies, so I disagree. Tariffs should be lowered. From what? I don't really know. Like, how high are the tariffs now? Who has tariffs? Where? I don't know anything about the tariffs. People should vote issue by issue themselves. No, I mean, should they? Would I prefer that over this system? Yeah. Don't know if that's my favorite approach. I'm going to say unsure. We are first and foremost citizens of Earth. I mean, sure. Strongly agree to that, whatever that means. Nobody in other countries has our best interests in mind. I mean, why would they? They would have their own best interests in mind, wouldn't they? And those would be different from ours, so yeah, I would agree. Class war is a real and important issue. It doesn't seem to be. It seems like nobody actually cares about class. People seem to care more about nationality than class. So, no. The sacrifice of some civil liberties is necessary to protect us from acts of terrorism. Which civil liberties? I don't know. It depends on which ones you're talking about. So I'm going to say unsure. I prefer collectivism over individualism. Strongly agree. Government surveillance is necessary in the modern world. I don't think so. The Enlightenment should never have happened. Strongly disagree. The government must break up monopolies to ensure... Oh, God, remember that PragerU video about the Enlightenment? How the Enlightenment should never have happened? Those guys are insane. So break up monopolies to ensure fairness within the market. I guess. I don't know. I don't really know about that stuff. A lot of those specific economic questions I just don't really know about. Socialism will never, has, and will never work. You guys, this is not a great test, honestly. Like, the wording has been poor. A lot of the questions haven't been great. A lot of them have felt very repetitive. I feel like if I were tasked with writing 288 questions, I could write better questions than these, even if I have to write all 288 of them. Um, yeah, I'm not really digging this one, to be honest. But socialism never has and will never work. I don't agree with that. I mean, give it a chance. Nobody but me can adequately represent my views. I'm not even sure that I can adequately represent my views. People should have the power to choose their leaders. Yeah, I mean, I think to some degree, yeah. I would say agree. Yeah. I think you need an aspect of public choice in there somewhere. Illegal immigrants do not provide a benefit to the hosting country. Um, do they not provide? I mean, I guess it depends on the illegal immigrant. So, I don't know. Illegal immigrants should be deported in most or all cases. Well, you know how I feel about how laws should be consistent. If you have a law, you know, be consistent to that law. But that doesn't necessarily mean there can't be some other laws that add context. They might the illegal immigrants might be illegal, but it doesn't mean we can't create laws to make it so that we don't have to deport them. So, yeah, I would disagree. I mean, I think that a lot of them should be allowed to stay. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Immigrants can never really adapt to our way of life. That's not true. Taxation is theft. I swear, we had this question before. I'm getting sick of these ones that are just exactly the same ones we had before. I guess I would partially agree that taxation is theft, because it technically is. Tradition just hinders the progress of humanity. It doesn't just hinder the progress of humanity. It sometimes does, though. So I'd partially agree. Governments should be as concerned about foreign citizens as they are about those within their borders. No, I don't think so. Lasting peace leads to prosperity. It can. It doesn't always. Sometimes it leads to the opposite of prosperity, but I guess I would agree that not having wars tearing up your country is probably a good thing. Homosexuality is immoral. I mean, no. Look, we have the word oral in the word immoral. No, it's not immoral. I'm trying to come up with some sort of a different way to look at the question instead of just being like, no, it's not immoral. I'm trying to come up with like a different angle to view it from. But I'm not really coming up with anything. I think it's just a straight up disagree. In fact, I think it's a straight up strongly disagree on this one. Privatization is needed for economic success. I mean, if you privatize enough, then you won't have anything left to privatize. So, is that where your success fails, when you stop privatizing? I'm just picking apart the words here too much. Overthinking. I would disagree. I kind of like having some nationalized industries, you know? International aid is a waste of money most of the time. I don't know. Communism, if implemented correctly, would be a good form of economic... Well, of course, if implemented correctly. Of course. But who knows what the correct way is? We must return to a primitive lifestyle. Seems boring to me. I disagree. Religion is important for society. I would partially disagree. The United Nations should have a military to enforce its resolutions. This is exactly the thing I don't want. Strongly disagree. Intervention has caused more harm than good. Agree. I oppose human genetic modification. Oh my God, another one of these. Disagree. Religious organizations often provide better assistance to the poor than the government does. I don't know. I mean, I'm just thinking of Mother Teresa. Probably not the best example. I don't know. Yeah, I feel like this test could have been half as long, and it could have been better. With because a lot of these are repeat questions, and they're really irritating, having to answer the same ones more than once. But I didn't want to do just the 60 question version because that didn't seem like enough questions. I feel like at least 100 questions will give you a good, ballpark. But I don't know if we need 288. Everybody should speak at least 2 languages. Yeah, I strongly agree with that, my friend. A hierarchical state is best. Hierarchy. There are some drawbacks to that. So I would partially disagree. Strong states weaken a nation. Are you talking about like subdivisions, devolved governments weaken a nation? Partly. But doesn't mean we shouldn't consider them, because I kind of like systems like what Switzerland has. Technological progress and innovation cannot be stopped. Yeah, I agree. In fact, I'll strongly agree with that. I don't think you can put the genie back in the bottle. White guilt is sometimes justified. Nope. Nope. I'm just gonna stop you right there. Military spending is a waste of money. No, I mean, you gotta have a military. Abortion should be legal. Yeah, I agree. My religion is true. I don't have a religion. Anybody who wants to enter the country should be able to. Not anybody. I'll partially I don't think a known terrorist should be able to enter the country. The state knows best what an enemy needs, what an economy needs. Man, I'm getting tired. The state knows best what an economy needs. I'm not convinced of that. And it depends on who's in charge of the state, you know? I would disagree with that. The wealthy have far more than they need. Yeah, I strongly agree with that. Capitalism is better than any existing alternative. I'm not convinced of that. I'm going to say disagree. Most bad things happening in the world are caused by us turning away from religion. Protectionism is an unnecessary and unrealistic idea. Doesn't seem like that to me. The national government protects minorities better than some local governments do. I mean, I think that's pretty common sense. I would agree with that. A nation's culture is important to protect. Yeah, some of these questions are leading, though. Some of these questions are leading, and they rely on too many premises. So I don't think it's going to give me a very accurate result, to be honest. I think with a quiz like this, you really want to have very clear, unambiguous questions. And these are not really that. A nation's culture is important to protect. We had this question already. What did I say? I can't remember. I'm going to go partially agree, I guess. Because I don't want to go through the whole thought process again. You know? The government should support and only recognize one religion. Disagree? There should be compulsory military service. I mean, I don't like the military. So I don't know if I would support that idea that we should have compulsory military service, because I kind of just don't like the military. But I don't know if that means the military should be reformed and we should have compulsory military service, or if it just means we shouldn't. I'm going to go unsure. Tariffs should be eliminated. I don't like that idea. Traditions are of no value on their own. I think on their own is when they have the most value, so I disagree. Alliances can pose a threat to a nation's sovereignty. I mean, if the other countries in the alliance are like buttholes about it, but I guess I partially agree. I mean, it could be a problem. International trade is generally beneficial. Yeah. A nation must obey its leadership without question. I'm not big on that. I'm not a big fan of the obbedire aspect of fascism, the obedience. I disagree. All right, wow, finally. It felt like we'd never get to the end. Wow, look at that. Oh, I am so centrist. Okay. So we have structure. Looks like I lean slightly unitary on structure. Interesting. I wasn't sure how I would come out on that, because I have a strong kind of federalist a strong federalist streak in me. And so I thought maybe federalism would beat the unitary thing, but I think I also have enough of that kind of will for like a strong national government that I'm not really swayed one direction or the other. Representation, centrist, so between democracy and autocratic, that pretty much describes me. power centrist. Um, so we have freedom. I lean slightly in freedom, but I'm also not against some authoritarian measures, it looks like. Non-interventionist. So I lean much more strongly uh, toward internationalism, I guess, than nationalism. But I'm not too much more strongly. I do have a bit of nationalism in there, but it looks like it's characterizing me as just like someone who just wants to leave people be, which that's very much me. Diplomacy neutral. Lean much more towards pacifist, but a little bit militarist. That's fair. I feel like I should be much more pacifist, but I guess because I was honest about the fact that, sometimes you gotta slap people around. It's unfortunate, but there you go. Immigration polyculturalist. And that's different from multiculturalist. How? Yeah, it seems like I'm just not invested in the whole anti-immigrant sentiment because I just I do sympathize. The thing is, I do very much sympathize with the people who have problems with immigration, but I can't ultimately get behind that way of thinking. Economy social democratic. Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at. 61% collectivize. That seems pretty fair. Control is balanced between markets and planned, but a little bit leaning toward planned. Fair. I mean, all of this seems pretty fair, honestly. I didn't really consider myself a centrist, but I guess in a very broad way I would be. Even though I'm pretty left wing. I'm not like an American centrist. For trade, we have moderate. So looks like I lean globalist, but I'm also not against protectionism. Religion, atheist, that's not a surprise. Culture, progressive. Yep, that's not a surprise. And technological, as opposed to bioconservative, which I still don't quite know what it means. I guess it's just like return to nature or whatever. So I guess I'm a centrist overall. So, I'm not a centrist by like regular Overton Windows standards, but I do think that this actually does pretty much explain what a centrist is better than normal Overton Windows centrism does. Because I am just kind of like all over the map, and I do take in ideas from every source. So interesting result. What do you think of it? What do you think of this test? I'm still not quite sure how to feel about it. I think it's better than Political Compass, but I don't really like it. Maybe the 60 question version is better. But yeah, that's it for today. VEDN Day 29. I'll see you tomorrow for the last day of VEDN.